Well, thank you, Bria, for that lovely introduction, and good morning, and welcome to Boston, everyone. It's great to have you here. I'm so pleased to have this chance to spend a few minutes with you, and first of all, to congratulate you for taking this step toward law school, by getting this information, by making these connections, by meeting all these people, and again, a special thanks to Evangeline for all of this hard work she's done over 14 years to bring you all here. So I don't have a whole lot of time with you, and I have a few things to say, but before I get into that, I really just wanted to reflect on some of the things we've already heard, and it was really interesting to me to hear John's words just before me, and Bria's, and I'll tell you why in a second about Bria's. But John talked a lot about relationships and how important they are, and how particular people had a really important impact on his life and on his profession. His growth in the profession. And it was interesting because as he told that story, he told the story about someone who was the same person who helped me get to where I am today, Marianne Glendon. He said Marianne Glendon was at Boston College when he was there and was his property teacher. Well, then Marianne Glendon went to Harvard, where I was, and she was my teacher. And not only was she my teacher, she was also one of my primary references to get into academia. I wrote my third-year paper for her, and when I decided to become a professor, she said she'd be one of my references. So one of the reasons I'm here today is because of Marianne Glendon. It sounds like Marianne Glendon had an important role in John's life. But one of the things I want to highlight by that story is the fact that relationships, as you've heard from just about everyone up here, are so critical for all of us. And building those relationships is really important. You never actually know which one of those relationships is going to be the one that gets you to a new place, that changes your life, that opens a door. And it may not be obvious. It may be someone who was critical of you, who pushed you really hard, who made you feel like, I can't do this. But actually, often those are the people who see your potential and want you to realize it. So it was just astounding to me that in the course of 20 minutes, two people had one of the same mentors. I've also had the pleasure of working with John at the Boston Bar Association, and everything he told you about that kind of networking is also really critical. And there are so many opportunities to meet people and to network and to learn through these associations, and you definitely should take a chance to do it in the ways that have been described. And then finally, I am here as the Dean of Boston College Law School, and I do want to make a pitch for Boston and some things that are going on here. Not to become a marketer, but just to talk to you about how so many things are happening in so many cities, and since we're here in Boston, I want to tell you a little bit about what's happening here. Boston has 6 law schools. Do you know that of the 6 law schools in Boston, 3 have Black or African American deans? That's not something you normally hear. And I think that's a sign of a city that's really going through some dynamic and really important changes, and a city that has real opportunity for folks like us. Despite its troubled history, it's sometimes out of the most troubled histories that real opportunities arise, because people have had an opportunity to really examine problems and to try to address them. And I think right now you're seeing in Boston real openness to diversity, a real dynamic economy that's booming and that needs that diversity. Law schools in Boston that really want you, want you to be here and want you to be a part of what's happening here. And I'm sure other cities can say that too, and there are other places that many of you are from where these things are happening. But don't forget that. Look closely at the kinds of things that are changing in the places where you want to go. And I mean, I don't think when I was here as a student that the idea that 3 of the law schools would be run by Black deans would have just been laughable to me when I was here, and now look where we are. So change is happening. Change is in the air, and change is actually meaningful, and you're an important part of that change and how it's going to come. So what I want to do is to talk about 3 things with you very, very briefly. I want to tell you, first of all, what a wonderful educational opportunity law school provides. I know you've been hearing that, but I just want to give you a few more of my own personal thoughts on that as a dean of a law school and as someone who works with law students every day. Second, I want to tell you a little bit about my own personal story, and I hope that it will inspire you and make you feel that you do belong, as you've heard, and that there are no places in the law that should be closed to you, and no opportunities that you should put to the side. You should seek them and seize them, and I hope my personal story or some aspect of it will help inspire you in that way. And then third, I want to let you know how much the legal profession needs you in particular. And again, I feel like I'm riffing off of Bria's introduction of me, because she said all these things to you as well, and I'm just going to go a little bit more deeply into them in my talk here. So you've already heard it. Law school is hard, it's challenging, you're going to work a lot, but the things that you're going to get out of law school are going to serve you for the rest of your life. You're going to be trained to think in a rigorous, logical way. You're going to learn how to see all sides of an issue. You're going to learn how to present arguments and counter-arguments. You're going to learn to write and speak clearly and effectively and persuasively. All of these skills are incredibly important in anything that you want to do. These are tools of success across a range of things in your life. Now, once you have these skills, you're going to have tools that, as I said, will serve you, but you'll also be a part of a profession that's a critical part of this democratic society. It's at the heart of how this society functions, or sometimes dysfunctions, but it's a very, very important way for us to live together in a community of citizens that is based on the rule of law. And that's true in the public space as well as in the private space. Now, on the public side, I don't think I have to tell you how important it is in our current time to have individuals, citizens, professionals who understand the importance of facts and that facts exist, who believe that rules actually matter and should be enforced and observed, and to understand that you have to listen to and understand both sides of an argument, and you have to learn how to persuade people through argument with facts, not by bullying, not by name-calling, not by threats, but with reason. This is what you do in law school. This is what you learn. And these are skills and tools that our society needs desperately. And if we don't get better at using them, our future will be very, very grim. But as a member of the legal profession, you will be at the vanguard of making sure that those things happen. Now, the other thing that law school does, that's sort of a public argument for being a lawyer, how we participate in the public life of our society. On the private side, these things are important too. This is how business gets done. This is how people make agreements. This is how our economy functions. And that's becoming a lot more complex than it ever used to be. We are in a global economy where people from all over the world are doing business together. And we need people who understand rules and procedures and how to write contracts and how to represent individuals and how to understand the fact that the law in Europe actually affects our lives here, because the GDPR, the law that requires information to be disclosed in certain kinds of ways in cyberspace, since the United States didn't pass a law, the European law is the one that people are now observing. So you're going to be learning how to do things like that and how these things make business work, how jobs are created in our economy. All of these things need lawyers to help them happen. So this is a great profession, and it has a lot of skills that it's going to give to you that will be useful across a range of activities, as I said. And it may be that you won't practice law in the traditional way. And I'm sure you're going to hear stories today about many people who started in law school and now are doing very different things, running companies, representing individuals in all kinds of activities outside of the law, startups, you name it, because they have the tools and they have the skills that make them the kinds of people who get things done. So you're going to get a lot out of law school. Now I want to tell you a little bit about my personal story and why I'm so proud and privileged to be in this role at this time in this place. Now I'm very lucky. I knew a lot about law and about law school because my father went to law school and my father was a lawyer. And actually, he was a person who went to law school who actually didn't practice law very much. Most of the time I was growing up, my father was in government, he was working for nonprofits, he worked for a corporation. He actually spent most of the time practicing law at the end of his career. So just one more example of how going to law school opened up many different doors that weren't necessarily the ones you would suppose. But I'm here not just because of the work I did as a student and the work I have done in my professional life that you heard a little bit about, the places I went to school and the things that I've done, but also because of the sacrifices and the vision of family members who came before me. So my father grew up, and my mother grew up as well, in Southwest Louisiana. But in my father's case, he was not only the first person in his family to go to college, he was the first person in his family to finish high school. And that was because my grandparents are from a very small kind of sub-community in South Louisiana, small rural towns. They did not grow up speaking English, they grew up speaking French. And no one prior, for the last 200 years in their families, had spoken English until my father's generation. And then, of course, at the time, if you were black, there were no high schools available to you, particularly if you were French speaking, but even if you weren't, they would have had to travel 30, 40, 50 miles to get to a black high school that would have been able to accommodate them, so they didn't go. Now, they were able to get my father through high school, but by the time he was 19 years old, he was in jail. He was in jail for a sit-in at his college, Southern University in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. And then, of course, he was also kicked out of school because now he had a record. So 19, in jail, out of school. But by the time he was 30, he had graduated from Harvard Law School. And so due to the fact that a lot of people took an interest in his life, that he worked really hard, that he had some skills that he applied to the situation in which he found himself, but mainly because of many, 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 many people who believed in him and cared about him and knew that he had something to offer, he was able to do something that not only changed his life, but changed the life of my family forever. And 16 years after he finished Harvard Law School, so did I. And I know that that didn't happen because of me. That happened, and it didn't just happen because of him. It happened because of so many other people, but particularly I want to give credit to my grandparents who never had an education, who never had the chances that we had, but who believed in the opportunity to make sure that their child got an education, and who supported everything that he did that allowed him to be able to get through some very, very difficult situations at a very difficult time in this country's history and achieve an extraordinary thing. So I tell you this story not because it's maybe particularly relevant anymore to your life now, but the people who had those lives then did the things and suffered the things and pressed for the things to allow you to be here today. It's because of that that I'm here to be able to even speak to you, that there are 3 black deans in Boston. It's because of all of those things those people did, because they knew that they wanted things to be better, and they knew that they would not get to do them, but they wanted it for their children and their grandchildren and those after them. So I honor that every day by the work that I do. And I honor that by telling you that story. And I want you to know that there are people in your lives who I know are feeling the same way about you. They have put their heart and soul and mind and time and treasure in you. They want you to succeed. They know you can succeed. And some of those people are not even in your families. Some of those people are people like me, right here. I see you, and I see opportunities, success, I see hope, I see change. So make sure that you use this weekend to get all the information that you need to make those things happen, because there are a lot of people, living and dead, who are cheering for you, rooting for you, who want you to be lawyers. And you will be lawyers, and you will succeed. So that's my bit of personal information to let you know that wherever you are, whatever's going on in your life, whatever struggles you've had to face before you've gotten here, those struggles will not prevent you from reaching your goal, and that there are people here who want to make sure that you do. Finally, I want to end on just saying what I mentioned at the beginning, and what Bria mentioned. The legal profession needs you and wants you. The legal profession is a wonderful profession. You're going to gain incredible skills by being a part of it, by going to law school, even if you don't practice law, but it is the least diverse profession in the country. That's just the truth. And we need to change that. Now, there's so many reasons why this is a problem. We can all understand why it's a problem, but it affects so many things. It affects how justice is meted out in this country. It affects how economic resources are distributed in this country. So we need to solve this problem, and we're going to solve it working with you. So I want you to know that you belong in law school, that law school is available for you. It will open countless doors for you. I've told you how legal education will provide you with countless opportunities to engage in many different kinds of careers, of certainly the career of law, but make sure that you also know that this profession needs you. Law schools want you and need you. Law firms want you and need you. Businesses need you. This country, this democracy needs you. You need to be able to participate in pushing the levers of power in this country so it can be a better place, a fairer place, a more just place. Because a legal profession, a democracy that does not have a diverse representation that represents the way the people of that country look is not going to be a just and fair and ordered place. So the reason that we are here today, well, the reason I am here today, is to make sure you know that we will do everything possible to help you, that I'm incredibly proud that you've taken this time to come here, many of you from very far away, to make sure that you have the resources that you need to go to law school and that you will succeed in law school. We are here to help you and to make sure that you do. So I offer you my congratulations, I offer you my support, I offer you my shoulders. Get on them and ride. Thank you.